Let's start over because I'm 100% muted on that entire time. 100% muted. Let's start over. Happy Sunday, everybody. Of course, I started everything off muted here on the Sooner or Later Sports Show. Thank y'all for pulling up and hanging out with us. That is, of course, Coop. I'm Jay. Thanks for pulling up here on the YouTube channel and listening wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to while you're here. Please wipe your feet, like, subscribe, rate, review, and give us those 5 stars. Y'all think we deserve it? Go ahead and give us 5 anyway and gift it. So on today's episode of the Sooner or Later Sports Show, me and Coop's going to have us a lot of fun. We're going to talk about the latest commitment and why we believe Oklahoma's on an upward trajectory. We'll talk about, is college football ruined? Shout out to our guy, Josh Pate. We'll also dive into SEC returning production. I think that's going to be a fun talk. And then we'll wrap up with a little bit of personal stuff just so y'all can understand what went down on me last week. So, happy Sunday. Coop, what's going on?
Jay, I miss you, man. I miss everybody watching. It's like, was it 2 weeks or 1 week? It feels like a lifetime since I've been around. So,
yeah, you've been skipping out on work, man.
Yeah.
Nah, you've been living life and doing some good stuff, spending time with the family, everything we all should be doing. So, no, yeah, it's been about a week. We haven't got to hang out, but I appreciate you pulling up. Everybody else in the comments, thank y'all for pulling up. Thank y'all for talking bad about me. We love it. We appreciate y'all. And it looks like EV Mux is actually working, so I actually put everybody in the comment section. I can actually see everybody's comments for the first time in a while. Chuck, the Boz isn't doing anything, but I did like that picture of him, so I threw him on the thumbnail. You know, gotta have fun with all of that. So thank y'all again. Another beautiful, beautiful Sunday. It's raining like crazy. If you are in the OKC Metroplex, please be safe. Watch your local news and meteorologists because dim storms ain't no joke. Like right now, it's pouring, Coop, here in my area, and I know that it's headed your direction. So make sure.
Very dark.
Yes. And it's funny because I actually planned on going for like a walk or a run after this. And because then it'll be later, it won't be as hot or as muggy. And then it started storming. I'm just like, well, I guess that walk/run is definitely not happening. So, but Coop, man, how is your weekend going so far?
It's been a lot. This has been a weekend. But you know, I just want to say thank you to everybody for tuning in. Thank you for those who have served our country and sacrificed a lot. Thank you to the families for sacrificing, because I think a lot of the times we think of the soldiers, but the families need a lot of props too, because they sacrifice the most. You know, letting their loved ones go, and this is a good weekend, and I think that with this weekend, we just need to understand that a lot of people working on our behalf at all the time.
All the time. So always got to have some appreciation for people doing what they do. So thank you for those that serve. Don't say it too. I actually had someone that used to serve, and they were like, hey, just like, don't thank a veteran for their service today, because it's really isn't for veterans. And I thought that was kind of interesting.
For those who sacrifice.
Yes, it's for the sacrifice, those that actually aren't, here anymore. So
here to say.
Exactly. They're not the ones that you can actually tell them thank you. But yeah. I love that you, Coop, you had to point out that you're 75% Irish and 100% Boomer. That's beautiful. That just warms my heart. Have you been to Ireland?
Once.
Dublin?
I don't get to go very often. Went to Dublin, spent a short time there, but most of the time I have old family members who actually, until 2020, COVID took it down, but we had a family pub for quite a long time, and so got to go to one of the last years there. I went in 2013.
Interesting.
So it's been a while.
Interesting. Okay. Well, to 2030, yeah, it's about 12 years. So we got to get you back out there. Just go, to Dublin. I want to go to Dublin. That's on my list of places to go. I know when they played the college football game out there, what was that? Florida State and Tech, which we saw that massive upset, while at the same time, it seemed like that would be a fun environment to be a part of.
Ended up not being much of an upset.
Truth be told, once the season completed, it wasn't really much of a upset. But in light of that, we'll be able to talk about why that wasn't as much of an upset, especially when we get into returning production. We'll jump into that. We're going to jump into a few other things as well. So, again, thanks for pulling up. Hit the like button. New to the channel, subscribe, rate, review. Give us 5. Coop, we got another defensive commitment. Me and you didn't get to talk about this a lot here, so the people can hear your thoughts. But, of course, my excitement's there. You got a commitment from our boy, Brian Harris. Brian Harris is out of Mandarin down there in Jacksonville, Florida. Mandarin High School. Comes in 6'4", 290, and he's legitimately measuring at the 6'4"-ish range and at 290 pounds as a high schooler. And he brings in a lot of nice tools. Consensus composite, roughly 3-star player. Rivals has him as a 4-star, top 20 defensive lineman in the country. Coop, I want you to give us your initial thoughts on this.
As much as I hate to say this, when you see Penn State going hard after a defensive lineman, those guys usually have an attacking style. That's the, when we lost out last year on a couple of guys, lost out to one specifically, we'll leave it there. That's the attacking style defensive lineman. And I like this, number one, because I have an uncle named Brian Harris who is a huge Polk fan. So this kind of is a fun one. Spelled differently. Brian is spelled differently, but shout out to my Uncle Brian. We'll see you this weekend. No, this is good because you a lot of questions going along around where are the commitments at, and it always gets about this point of the year to where we are looking at the rankings and going, what's going on? Like, are we going to start sometime soon? Like, we're just kind of building up momentum, right? What's going on? And so you get a defensive lineman. This guy is one of the fastest risers. If you've read any articles, he's a guy who is continually getting more and more accolades. And so at the 290, 6'4", you get him in on campus. By time the end of the senior year, get him a little Schmitty time, and 300's not too far away. So pretty excited about Brian to be joining the fold. And it's crazy. It's not too long ago that defensive linemen and safeties were not the thing that Oklahoma was known for, but now you have the safety room, which is just extremely stacked. You have the defensive line room that is, whether it's the edge or whether it's interior, we continue to stack the names, and Brian Harris is the next one up. So pretty excited about him. A lot of powerful hands. He is a guy who is pretty quick, but also pretty stout at the same time. So a guy that as soon as Mr. Bates gets a chance to get him in and work, I know that he was recruited by Chavis and Bates. And this is just another one of those guys, and the negative effect is continued to show with Brian. He has a very, very, very good, kind of a hybrid skill set. And this is a guy who projects as an NFL body, and that's what you're starting to see out of these recruiting schemes. Is you want to see guys who are, have the measurables that are going to go to the league, and you get them into campus in 3 or 4 years, as they say on the commitments, taking their talents for the next 3 or 4 years. This is a guy who really, if he maxes out, this is a potential 3-year guy, and so pretty good setup there. We continue to get guys out of Florida, and it's never a bad thing.
Never at all. And you made a point there. You got Chavis as well as Bates both recruiting him, and mainly because for the uninitiated that don't know why, he plays edge. You can see in the videos here, in his huddle video, he plays edge down there at Mandarin, even at 290. That's a big boy to be playing at the edge spot. And just like you said, Coop, when he gets here to Oklahoma and Schmitty gets his hands on him, he's gonna have him doing some stuff. And he should get up there in a good 3. I think he'll be 300 by the time he gets here. Unless, that Florida sweat really actually makes him stay around 290 as he get those gains, because it's pretty hot down there. But he could come in at 300, and they can get him to 310 easily over the spring, especially if he enrolls early. If he's not an early enrollee, I expect by the end of his freshman year him to be 310, 315, because he has the frame and everything for it. And watching him talk about why he picked Oklahoma and everything was pretty intriguing. He wants people to have no question. And I think the staff did a really good job of recruiting him to give him the feeling that this is the place to be. But watching him on tape, shout out to our resident Texas fan, Ben G. Appreciate you pulling up. He's right. He looks good on tape, and he's very raw, which is really good, right? Even as a raw player, he looks really good on the tape, and he can play, like I said, interior or play on the edge. And if he maintains the speed at that size to do that, Oklahoma just got themselves a steal. And, Coop, you mentioned it, Nagy pointed this out. He said this even on the socials, that it starts in the trenches, and you can see that they're pushing for big boys like this on a regular basis. Now, it's funny because, again, you made a really good point a minute ago, Coop, that we missed out on, someone that we were going after when it comes to the recruiting trail. And this is something to kind of point out here. Give me a second. I want to get this right for you all so you can see it. But this is the sheet of folks that was after this young man, from Oklahoma to Penn State, Mississippi State. You got Stanford, West Virginia. Then you start getting down there for real. South Carolina, Alabama, Michigan, Ole Miss. He was committed to Maryland. Duke, NC State, all the way down to Auburn here at the bottom. A lot of the programs that are known for having really good defensive linemen was after 100%. The kid. That tells you everything you need to know about the talent. I mean, 3-star, cool. Jaden Jackson was also considered 3-star, and then as the season progressed, he started to move up, which I think Brian will as well, because he was an Under Armour All-American at their camp, the UA Next camp. He was an MVP there. He was MVP at that camp recently. So now you see yourself with a dude, big hands, big body, broad shoulders, and athletic for a big man. Cool. We probably got ourselves yet another steal in recruiting.
He is a guy who, and as you say, with the raw pieces there, it is an absolute it's an absolute pleasure to be able to see that guy go out and really not know what he's doing yet. And so you get him into some really, really good coaching. Right now it is pure instinct and athletic ability. And so you get a guy like that, he's going to have to learn technique. This is not a guy, it doesn't matter how raw you are and how explosive you are. The technique has to come, because the guys that you're going to be going up against are going to be technically sound, and for the most part, especially in the SEC, in the trenches. And so you get him to come in here. He will not be asked to be a superstar, year one. He'll be asked to come in and put in the good work, and to try to penetrate the depth chart, and maybe that too deep. But you see him wide, lining up wide, and a lot of his tape. One of the things that really, really caught my eye on him is when you watch a lot of this tape, they show the wide field view, and you just see how much space it is out there and open, and it just points out more and more, like this one right here. Look how much space you see right there on that field, and that field also looks like something I wouldn't want to play on, but nonetheless, that one's a little bit better. But nonetheless, you see how much space is out there, and you know what it means for the trenches, because if you can blow up the line of scrimmage, and if you can get in there and do some damage, all of a sudden the rest of that field don't matter, because the quarterback is no longer on schedule. He's going to have to to react to the defensive lineman crashing down on him, and dude lining up at the edge at 290. It's just something that you haven't seen a lot. It's no longer OU
Yeah.
taking guys that are in the 250s, 260s, and hoping that you can bulk them up with the meal plan. But now taking guys closer to that 300 mark, and that's what you need. Is you got to have boys who are going to come out here, put on the LBs, and be able to hold up, because it's a war every single week. And as you say, you with teams like Texas, teams like South Carolina, Alabama, Auburn, you have to have guys in the trenches who are going to be monsters, and a little bit of mutants there. And so I think that Brian Harris has some mutant in him, and I am really, really excited to see what he can do once he gets here.
Me too. I expect big things out of Brian Harris. He was one. When I saw his tape, I was like, yeah. And you're right, Coop. You're gonna get some guys in the 250, 260 range, especially if you feel like they're a really good project that you see the upside on. But you don't have to only get those. You're going to spend, as you said, more time getting guys in the 270, 290, heck, 300-pound range day one that has the speed and athleticism you need on the defensive line. That's how you're going to be successful in the SEC. Keeping it a buck, you're going to win some 5 stars and all of that, but you're also going to win a lot of high 4s and some very high 3s that people don't see or recognize immediately. And I think that's where Jim Nagy comes into play. He's going to look for those NFL traits in the high school ranks. And if he sees them, he's going to go after them. He's going to say, no, go after this kid because he has the traits that you will appreciate going forward. So love that pickup. Question is, what's next? Well, Oklahoma has some big recruiting weekends coming up, especially all the way through June. Visit season is about to blow up. Thank y'all for pulling up. Hit the like button if you're new to the channel. Subscribe, rate us, review us, give us 5. But the 2 big weekends for Oklahoma will be June 6th as well as June 20th. And we've got a nice list that we're putting together over there on in the Discord. I'm going to have it published probably tomorrow since it's Memorial Day. I'm not going anywhere or doing anything because I'm going on vacation the following week. So I'm going to put together a nice, massive list of official visits and those are expected to be in town, in which it is going to be bonkers, Coop. Bonkers, I tell you. Bonkers, especially with Bo Bentley changing his visit weekend to that one. So OU's got a massive list coming through, especially as we talk about it here. June 6th is going to be nasty.
Starting June 6th. Yeah, June 6th is the big one, and that's the day that continues to stick out to me. And it's crazy because there's a lot of I've had a couple people reach out to me and say, I hear that Nagy is really, really taking over. Him and his staff is taking over a lot of the stuff for the position coaches. So instead of you going out and trying to find your top 15 guys that you want to start kind of looking at, Nagy now hands you a list of guys that have NFL measurables, and now it's your job to go out and maybe target those guys on top of the people on your list. And this is another one to where I feel like this recruiting class, when it comes to the ranking style this year, I'll just say for OU fans, don't expect a top 10 class this year. I don't think that that's going to happen. I think that, you're hoping to be in that 25 to 20 range, because I think that Nagy effect is really going to be a big piece this year. And you start getting in some of these guys that are, dudes who end up going to other programs and showing out and then hitting the transfer portal and, maybe upgrading and going to a bigger program. Now you get a lot of those guys in here early. And so you get them into, a higher caliber program and going to be a little bit of a better option for this coaching staff. And you just go through it and you just look at some of the guys coming in on June 6th. Some of these dudes are just, they're just, they may not be the top of the rankings, but these are all guys. You look at a guy like Deacon Schmidt, 6'5", 310. I've talked to Deacon several times. A dude who is trying to take Colorado by storm. Just an absolute workout warrior. There's a lot to like here. Bo Bentley, when Arbuckle finally, started kind of digging into him. This was a guy who was not yet on the national radar, but now everybody knows his name. He's an Elite 11 next step finalist, and he's going to be a guy who the staff, I really have pointed this out before, Jay. It's a guy that I think that with the reputation that Arbuckle has started, developing for himself with guys like Bailey Zappi and Cam Ward, and now the next one up with John Mateer. You kind of just trust that, if he's targeting a dude, he's going to be on the solid rise.
Agreed. And there's a lot of players that, like, I think Katoa has already canceled his visit. I don't know if Sincere Johnson's going to make the trip, but I haven't seen him say that he's canceling any of his visits. We didn't end up in his top 3, but if he still comes to visit, that's huge. To me, that's a massive win for Oklahoma for a player that is uber talented. But Bo Bentley making the change and adjusting his visit to where he's going to show up on the 6th instead of coming on the 13th by himself makes you feel like there's going to be some peer recruiting happening while he's there. Because it only makes sense for you to come when everybody else is showing up. If you're not, if you're already sold and you're just trying to sell others on joining you at said program. Of course, your hard commit with Ja'Cory Smith is huge. Eli Golden is a pretty nice one to get into town.
At the bottom, Dallas.
Dallas Dickerson's going to be a big one.
Very fast riser. This is a guy who's starting to get a lot of attention, and I know that a lot of guys in our court have absolutely fallen in love with him. So guys like Tavion Branch, Dallas Dickerson. And you're seeing a difference because even Bo Bentley, 6'1", 200 pounds, like that's a little something different. A lot of people don't remember that, when Baker was here, that dude was thick. He had a lower body that was, he was not coming in at a 175, 180 type of guy. He was coming in, closer to that 190 range. And the body types are just continually, getting more and more NFL style. And, Noah Best is another one. I love my guys. I know I did, interviews with Toa Katoa and a couple others that made the SMU jump. And SMU is making a really, really big push. But this is a list that you should not be too sad about.
At all. So I'm happy with what we're pushing for. I expect that weekend to come out with a few good commitments. And so we'll be here on Sunday. I'll be back home Sunday and next Sunday. So me and Coop will definitely go live whenever I get back in town, depending on that time. We'll definitely go live and dive into what went down for Visit Weekend. So keep your eyes open for that. I think it's going to be fun. If you got any questions or anything, please feel free to drop those questions in the comment section so we can talk some more ball. But thank y'all for pulling up. Hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, rate, review, give us 5. Coop, there was something that I synced on the social medias. Shout out to, of course, Josh Pate over there at Josh Pate's College Football Show. And he asked a very intriguing question. And not very many people can actually answer it. I'm going to put this up here on the screen because I think it warrants some attention here. Let me do this. And
I keep on looking out my window. So if you guys are wondering what I'm looking at, it's because
it's storming.
We've already got trees uprooted all over the place, and our new neighborhood, we built a new house a couple years ago, and so we don't have very many trees like in the neighborhood, but 150 yards over here, we got a little bit of a forest, and we got trees already down, and it's already looking ominous. So if you see me looking over there, that's why.
Right. Here's the question. He says, college football is messy, but when anyone claims it's ruined, I always ask the same question. Do fall Saturday still feel the same? And people say, and he also asked, for anyone saying that it's fundamentally different for the worst, give me specifics as to why. Cool. I'm going to pose this question to you specifically because a massive set of changes just hit college football recently. The first one that I do not think is a negative thing, and I don't see why anybody else would consider this a negative thing, but people like to complain just to complain sometimes. But college football is going to a seeding change, which would be straight seeding going forward when it comes to the playoffs. For the uninitiated, what that means is after the first off, they're going to seed them based upon actual seeding. There won't be an automatic top 4 spot for conference champions. It'll be based upon where you are in the top 12. Second thing is that as each rounds go, they will do reseeding, and that's my understanding with that. Coop, give me your first thoughts around the seeding, and then we're going to talk about Josh Pate's video.
I mean, you just got to look at it. If anybody saw the top 4 seeds last year and you felt objectively like it was legitimate how it was supposed to be, and you really feel that way, I feel like you're in a little bit of a smaller crowd. Let's just be honest. Last year, Big 12 was an extremely competitive conference, but did they have a name out there? They had Arizona State that pressed Texas. They had a couple of other teams that looked good throughout the year, but they didn't have a marquee program. So how are you going to sit there and tell me that the Big 12's number 1 really deserves the same, look as the SEC or Big 10 number 2? Really has that type of, capabilities. I don't think any of us had Ohio State winning the national championship last year, week 10. I think most of us thought that they were a very, very good team, but it was still Ohio State. But you knew that Ohio State was probably a little bit more of a favorite than anybody coming out of the Big 12 or Clemson coming out of the ACC or anybody like that. So we've been through so many different things. You had the BCS, you had the coaches poll, you've had the first, you had the Final Four type of situation, then you have the first year of the playoffs. And this year they didn't wait 3 or 4 years to kind of get a good feel about what was going on. They saw something that needed to be addressed, and they addressed it. And I just say it this way is, if you go into the Big 12 and you have a team who comes out with 2 losses, ranked number 18 in the in the top 25, but then you have a team from the SEC who is the runner-up like a Texas, I'm pretty sure that I would take Texas over any Big 12 team again this year before the season's even kicked off if they ended up at that spot. And so, no, I don't think that this has much to do with it. We're just going to be honest. Like, whether it's 68 teams with college basketball or it's, the seedings for, college softball or college baseball or college football, that there is a select few teams that really have the chance to go all the way. And why not reward those teams for being a team who ends up number 2 or number 3 in the SEC or the Big 10. These are the conferences that continue to produce the most. Clemson had its run for a few years there. We haven't really seen that. We'll see what it looks like. A lot of people believe in Clemson this year, but I'm fully on board with this because we've seen it in the NBA, we've seen it in the NFL. We've seen a lot of things to where you have, we've had years in the NFL to where teams win their division at 9-7, and you're sitting there telling me that 9-7 team out of the NFC South is going to stand up to a 14-2 team out of the AFC Central. Like, come on, that just doesn't make sense. So you want to reward a team for being as good as they are, and it is what it is. There's going to be a year to where your top 2 teams are probably coming out of one of those 2 conferences. Now, it's not like you don't get your opportunity from the ACC or the Big 12 or independent or the group of whatever. You still get your opportunity. You still get to line up and play. But I think that it is only right to reward teams who everybody knows and looks at and says, that team is probably better than this conference champion here, even though they were runner-up in their conference.
And that's true. That's a true way to look at it. But I think that, like you said, the seeding change, it is going to be a seeding change. It's going to be based upon where you are in the top 12. And to me, I want conference championships to have value, but not in that way of having an Arizona State fly up into a, like into a top 4 or something like that. When, there was questions about them going into it. A conference champion like a Boise State immediately getting a break. Make them play somebody if they're not already in the top.
100%.
If they're, because they're as the highest rated conference champion from the G5, you're probably going to end up around 10 to 12. I think the simulation here had them at number 9. Now, them versus Indiana would have been a fun game. Ashton Genty versus Indiana, who's just hot, up and coming squad. They pull the upset, we would appreciate it. And that to me is the allure of the 12-teamer, is because you're going to see, if you do it right, like March Madness, you're going to get a few upsets here or there, and that's going to make it fun. You're going to feel like they're actual upsets because it'll be teams that you feel like are truly matched up better in comparison. I would have liked Boise State, Indiana. Heck, Boise State may have pulled out that win. Then that would have been a fun game to see. Texas, Ohio State in the second round. Similar to what we had already saw, in the semis. It'd have been fun to see that. Then Georgia going up against Ohio State or something. A lot of those would have felt different, while at the same time, you may have still ended up with the same 2 teams in Notre Dame and Ohio State at the chip. I mean, Notre Dame, Ohio State. You may have seen that those 2, which is okay if you got the same result. But the thing is, you want to see if teams truly can match up with each other.
Yeah, I mean, look at that bottom tier right there. Do you really think that it wasn't going to just go ahead and be Texas versus Georgia? Like, it didn't matter who came out of the Arizona State, and is that Ohio State? Like, okay, it's Ohio State. Never mind.
Yeah.
So you're going
Arizona,
to have that Texas Ohio State in round 2, and that's what people are more interested in. That first round, NCAA tournament. You're really saying, what 16 seed can make the biggest amount of noise versus the 1.
Yeah.
Indiana and Boise State. I mean, those are 2 teams right there that you go, okay, you guys are both here because we've expanded the playoffs. You had a great year. We want to give you props for this. But I can promise you this: we talked about it in the middle of the year. That whole coaching staff was very, very appealing to a lot of different programs, and you get the winner of those 2, and then okay, so now you have played each other. We've got the winner of you 2. Now you get to go see Dylan Gabriel in Oregon, and now we get to see what happens from here. I mean, that's really what it should be, because I don't think that you throwing in a Boise State Oregon in week 1, in round 1, that's not. Nobody knew. Nobody had a good idea about, like, didn't they play earlier in the season too, right? I think Oregon and Boise State played early in the season. So you get that again in round 1. How fair is that for Boise State that now you got to go up there? If I'm Boise State or Indiana, I would relish in the fact to say, hey, listen, we can do this, and we have a good shot of winning our first playoff game in program history. That's something that Oklahoma is still looking for. So that's a positive for some of these teams. But yeah, I think that the just seeding it how it's supposed to be, that's the way you got to go, because it just feels silly. The NBA did away with their stuff, with their divisions and everything like that a few years back, and it's turned out for the best. So if anybody has issues with this or says, and you can kind of move into Josh Pate, because this is at the end of the season. For me, Jay, when I wake up on Saturday, I still feel the same way as I felt in 1996. I still feel the same way that I felt in 2002. I still feel the same way that I feel in 2010. You wake up on Saturday, 11 o'clock, is go time. You get your, whether it's the Fox Big Noon kickoff or whether it's game day, it still feels the same. And to college students, it still feels the same. You wake up a little bit early. You get the, you got Herb Street and Fowler. Corso no longer. But,
Life is still good.
It still feels the same for me, every single year. And that's why I think that, yeah, with all the stuff that has changed in college football, this isn't NIL's fault. It's not handlers' fault or agents' fault, and it's not anything like that. These are things that we should have handled a decade plus ago.
Boom.
And it's just still new. So when you move the cheese, and if you haven't read that book, go read that book.
Who Moved My Cheese? Great book.
When you change these things, it feels new, and people feel like when it's new, it can't be as good. I still feel like college football is still as good. And let's be honest, you have 5 or 6 teams every year that really have a legitimate chance at winning the national championship. You don't necessarily, I mean, let's look at college basketball. You don't have 68 teams who really have a good shot. Are you telling me that, Alcorn State or Sacramento State or any of these teams who, win their conference tournaments and they get to go up against a North Carolina or an Illinois or something like that, do you really think that, that's the first team that they're knocking out and they're going straight to the championship? No. That's why we like the upsets, because it is so rare. And so you get a chance for these teams like a Boise State to get in there and see what it looks like to be against, a high-performing Indiana. I personally like these things.
Man, yeah, and see, you echo really what my entire sentiment is with this. And this is why I agree with Pate, and I disagree with a lot of the people, even some of my folks in the comments. Love y'all, but at the same time, I do not think college football has gotten worse whatsoever. I'm more excited now than I was back in the day, and not only because we really cover this bad boy like crazy, but the thing that gets me the most excited is that everybody actually has a chance. Let's keep this a buck. You said it perfectly, Coop. Everybody didn't have a legitimate chance of winning a championship. That was never ever an actual thing. We like to tell ourselves that, and I tell you this too. Everybody hears me say this quite often. The point of having shows, podcasts, things of this nature that exist is to talk about your favorite team and hype them up. That's kind of the purpose. We're not, yes, you can call us sunshine pumpers. I am totally fine with that, because who wants to sit up and say, well, my team sucks as usual, so I think I'm going to go, support them just, even though I know they're going to suck. No, you always want to feel like your team has a chance. And that's the beauty of college football, is that legitimately just about everybody has a chance. While at the same time, let's be realistic here, not very many teams actually have a chance. It never changed with NIL as much as we think. NIL did make it to where some other teams now have an opportunity to do some stuff, but it always gets down to 2 things. 1 is coaching, and 2, the players actually executing. College football, to me, has got even better now because you got more eyeballs. People have more reasons to complain, and that is great for the sport. Like, the eyeballs are great. Now, I say that specifically because so many people always talk about ratings as if they get paid off of ratings. Like, I hear that discourse about the NBA all the time, and I laugh, and it's like, oh, the ratings are going to be terrible if the Thunder play the Pacers in the NBA Finals. Why do you care? The NBA just signed a 10-year, $80 million television deal with all these partners. They just went up 3 times what they were making before. That's not a problem, and it's not going to stop. They'll probably see a 10% increase the next 10-year one. It's going to increase. Why? Because it's live sports. The only thing in today's market, and this even goes back philosophically, I'll drop this on you all as well, when it comes to why channels like ESPN, Fox, Sports, NBC, all of them are changing the way that they broadcast shows or types of shows. The reason is because y'all are here on YouTube watching me, Coop. Your TV ain't on these TV shows anymore. You have choices. So you go and you watch on demand what you like. Most of the time, you're watching shows based upon your team. You're not watching in breakdowns of your team, not as much around just the sport in general. Not saying you don't at all. I'm saying as much. The national stuff is harder to do because people are cutting their cord. You got YouTube TV, but you only got it so you can watch actual live games.
Yeah.
So for college football, their stuff's going to keep going up because y'all will watch a lot. That's the only thing live we actually all watch consistently is sports. Sports is the one commodity that is going to do nothing but increase because it's the only way you can get people to sit down and watch stuff live. Everything else on demand. Because we like that. We like the choices of that. So off of that soapbox, I don't think any of it's been ruined by any of this stuff. Now, this is the difference, though. Now, Coop, I want to get your thoughts on this. My feeling has always been this when it comes to NIL and all of and that jazz. You've had people who have been willing to go to jail to illegally funnel kids money that gives them zero benefits besides seeing their teams get a W on the weekend. Boosters are the wildest things to ever exist to me, but it's also the most fascinating because what value is there for a booster to throw all this money at their school besides to say, my team won a game? For real. You're not on the field. You're not playing. But you'll funnel money illegally to kids. Now you can do it legally. But the problem is everybody's like, well, it's not regulated. It wasn't regulated when they was doing it illegally. It was just sliding. You know, everybody talks about Georgia, Alabama, Oklahoma. They're throwing money at people, right?
It's
right.
I mean, there's the stories of Barry Switzer digging in recruits' trash to find out what type of beer that their dad likes, and then bringing a 6-pack of their favorite beer and going to someone and saying, "Hey, I was looking at this, and I mean, their roof was leaking when I was in there meeting with the family. I mean, what if I had a roofing contractor that I could just send over there and say, hey, we're doing a project in your area. We want to hook you up." Like, all kinds of stuff like that. And so it is new. And like you said, not every fan base. I mean, you look at the OU fan base, you look at the Texas fan base, Ohio State. There's not 4 different shows with 20,000 plus subscribers for North Dakota State or Oklahoma State. No offense to Stillwater, but you just don't have that type of brand.
No.
And that's why people continue to click. I know that there's guys I know there's some of you people in the chat, and I respect the hell out of you because I am that guy. Long before I joined you, Jay, I would go in and I would watch all the content I could. I'd listen to Oklahoma Breakdown. I'd listen to Josh and Carey and Jeremy Crabtree way back in the day because I wanted to consume that. I'm not watching Hollywood Squares. That's an old school. I'm not watching
you went old
anymore.
Dang, you went old.
I'm not watching what was it? No whammies, no whammies, no whammies. Stop. Press your luck. I'm not watching that stuff anymore. Those things aren't there. I worked in TV. You try to go and sell Jeopardy and Price is Right and stuff like that. Those things still have, a lot of viewership. But the fact of the matter is sports is still very alive. People buy live sports and news, and even news is starting to go down on the lower tick because it's the same thing. You've seen everybody's gone on YouTube, and you've seen people in Detroit and LA and Chicago and Oklahoma City and Dallas all saying the same thing. And you don't care anymore. Like, we get these notifications on our phone, and that's all the news we need. And you know that half of it's lies anyway. And if I have to choose between Sunshine pumping for my favorite team or Ben G, I love you, man. You are one of my favorite guys. We've had our tete-a-tetes in the past and our disagreements, but you are a true guy who wants to watch anything college sports related, and you're going to watch those things. You're not going to go watch Real Wives of Hollywood. I mean, maybe you do. I'm not sure, but
I don't know. I ain't gonna judge you, Ben G. I know that you may like and dabble in the reality world. I ain't mad at that.
Wars or any of that stuff. Like, those things don't. That's not it. I mean, cable TV is dying, Baker, and this goes way back. I mean, I worked for Cox Communications years in the past, and the market manager came in at one point and said, we need to focus on, and this is going way back. You'll know what I'm talking about right here, Jay. We're going back to Gigablast. We got to sell Gigablast because the future is people streaming. And now you have YouTube TV, you have Sling, which is like the I guess the entry level. You have
Basically.
Hulu.
Yeah.
You've got all these
Fubo.
different things going on. Fubo. You got all these different things. People want to pay for what they're watching. And you don't need 75,000 channels anymore. That's ridiculous. You don't none of us watch that much TV, and if you do, it's passive while you're looking on your phone or watching something on YouTube or whatever. So people still watch college sports. People still watch NBA. People still watch all these things because it is still you can still get into the passion, the rooting interest, and the rivalries. I mean, you look at the WNBA is absolutely just gone from a trash product to something that people are excited about because of Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark. And it just doesn't make any sense, but it gives you two sides to kind of fight with. I'm on team Reese, I'm on team Clark. And those are the things that continue to happen. You watched last night. How many different narratives come out of the game with the Thunder game last night? You're watching that. We were at Buffalo Wild Wings watching the game. I got one guy's over here saying, "Oh, well, Minnesota just went unconscious in Oklahoma City, blah blah blah." And then there was, "All right, here's the league rigging everything, and they paid the officials, and these guys haven't ref the game in the playoffs, and now this clown show is out here, and they're going to do this." It's about the passion, and you can't have that over. Well, did you see the dude who was in Final Jeopardy? Like, I want that guy. That guy's my man. You can't root for a dude in Final Jeopardy, but you sure as hell can root for the Knicks or the Pacers or the Thunder or the Timberwolves. You can root for Caitlin Clark. You can root for Angel Reese, and you just gotta tap into the passion. And we don't have that. It's not everybody sitting around the TV at dinner time, eating your food and watching Jerry Lewis or anything like that. You got to watch stuff that actually gets your emotions kind of riled up. So this is still college football, NFL. I promise you this is, at USA Today, we have initiatives around travel. We have initiatives around, home and gardens. We got initiatives around states, and we got initiatives around sports. Guess which ones sell the easiest? It's sports. Okay? In all of our figures, I hope I don't get in trouble for this, but in all of our figures, we still got over 7 million monthly views for the Green Bay Packers for our newspaper products. The Green Bay Packers. That tells you something. It absolutely tells you something.
Tells you everything.
We didn't even have that many clicks when we were giving away $100,000 that I personally got to give away. And so that tells me this is people will be more engaged with who the starting wide receiver is, what the draft pick's going to do, what is Jordan Love going to do versus I might win $100,000. Like people would rather focus their attentions and their efforts on that. So yeah, sports is still alive and college football is still very much alive.
What's crazy when you say that is what makes me think, what I think about that is fans believe that they have a better chance of their team winning a national championship or a championship somewhere than they have in actually winning a bunch of money, which statistically might be true. I'm not going to say it's not. But at the same time, all of our understanding around this is that college sports in general is king. It's not going anywhere. So I know that some people are upset or bothered, perturbed by all the adjustments that we're seeing in college football. Hey, I don't like some of the decisions that the grown-ups are making either. But I also understand that this is a business now. And because so many people are making so much money, that it's going to be run like a business to where they can keep they want to keep that money maker going. And the unfortunate casualty behind that is that we've got to wait and see how things turn out in the end. But I tell you this, college football here in the fall won't change. It's going to be as exciting. Every conference game matters. We just saw this with Alabama losing to Oklahoma, knocked them smooth about. South Carolina losing multiple games in their conference kept them out. Yeah. Right? Ole Miss, same thing, kept them out. So losing one game may not be as bad, which it never has been as bad. Losing 2 games can be iffy. That third game destroys you, typically.
Yeah.
And I like seeing a little bit more parity. Kim said it best here in the comments. College football, he's watched Oklahoma beat Ohio State, and then you watch them lose to Arkansas. There was so much emotion and everything there. The tailgating is still ridiculous. I've been to a few stadiums. It's awesome. People still having a blast at these games. Now, you may not want to follow recruiting like we do. We are definitely degenerates that can't stop watching recruiting or following them. It's just, it be what it be. While at the same time, Coop, the NIL component of it helps me do a better job of deciphering who I want on my team and who I don't. Because like a lot of y'all want guys that just love the game and have a passion for it. Cool. Player doesn't pick your school because of NIL. Obviously, they didn't have the passion and love that you were looking for. And that is okay. You'll never hear me complain about that. Because I like the idea that we're going to probably go after kids that fit perfectly what we're trying to do. Winning. They care about winning. And they're the type of kids you want on your roster. And that's okay. I am Gucci with that. I just want people to understand, because the other thing, that other side of the NIL and the transfer portal components that you have to consider too is there's a player on the team that you think sucks and you want him gone. It's very easy to do that now. You can kick kids. You can get rid of kids. Now, you've always been able to get rid of kids if you want to get rid of them, but you can really get rid of them now in comparison. You just, encourage them to get in the portal. I don't think you'll be able to play here. Let me replace you with somebody else probably better.
And think about it. I mean, you can go back, and I don't want to disparage anybody, any dudes by names, because I've already done this, a lot in the past. But as an OU fan, as a Texas fan, as an Ohio State fan, as a Penn State fan, there's always a dude on your team that you're like, he is still here. How in the hell is this guy still here? And you got guys. I'll pick on a little man, Bookie. Bookie was a guy who had a lot of accolades, was borderline 5-star in a lot of different areas. And Sooner Cowboys brings up Jackson Arnold. I mean, plain and simple. How would you, as an OU fan right now, feel going into this year versus last year? If we were rolling into this year, Arbuckle's here, and nothing changes except for instead of Mateer, you got Arnold because he couldn't go anywhere. How would you feel?
Y'all would not be happy.
Would the feeling going into this year as an OU fan be better? I mean, tell me in the chat. Let me know, guys. What do you think? If you had Jackson Arnold running into this year, do you feel better about the season or worse? Because I feel like it's going to be unanimous.
Yeah, and I feel like everybody would say the exact same thing. And it's nothing against our guy Jackson Arnold. Thank you for being here and trying to figure things out. It didn't work out. No, good luck with you at Auburn. We can't wait to play against you. But that's exactly it. All y'all would have been like, hey, man, why is he still here? Can we get rid of him? And, a lot of y'all would not be wrong. But that's the game today. You can't have one side and not the other. People believe that players have more power, have the power here. They don't have the power. They just have more power. Like, they have more than they had before. They're more at the 40% where the team and the coaches have 60, instead of it being only one way. And that's okay. You're still going to enjoy it. Guess what y'all going to still do? Y'all going to watch these games? Because I'm going to watch these games. We're going to watch these games. We're going to have ourselves a good time. We're going to talk ball on here week after week. Why? Because you can't beat it. So I don't think that college football has gotten worse. I think it's going to do nothing but improve more and more, especially when we figure this stuff out. And you're going to see a lot more parity. You're going to see some teams that they're going to have an influx of money from their boosters that's going to actually help them be a more competitive football team. But no matter what, the kings of college football will always still be at the top. So you're going to see some people come to the top for a little bit. You're going to see them go right back to who they've been the last 30 years. You're going to have some team, because there's a lot of teams that are now better now than they were before, but it was a consistent thing of they'll be here for a bit and then they're going to go right back down to where they were before. So just keep that in mind. Thank y'all for pulling up. Hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, rate, review, give us 5. Derek, I definitely do Sunshine Pump a lot. It's so much fun. It's the only reason why I'm here. Like, why would I not get excited about my team? Like, what's the value of talking about college football if you're not excited about your team? Unless you're like a Bama fan or currently a Texas fan. They're super excited. Gonna miss you, Benji. You have a good night. Sorry I didn't get to say holler. Take care and enjoy the holidays with your family. There's a good question in here that I saw from, let me see, Midnight. I would like, where is he? I started and then I unstarted on accident, which I always hate that I do that sometimes. Push the wrong button. But it's more so a question about Oklahoma State and OU bringing back Bedlam. Coop, do you see us and there it is, 5 to midnight. Thank you, boss. I knew I had it somewhere. When do you think OU and Oklahoma State will revive the rivalry? Now, me and John talked about this over on Locked On. As soon as you can check us out here on YouTube as well. But this is the thing I had, Coop. This is the thing that bothered me about all of this. I personally do not see a reason why they don't have Bedlam right now. Mainly because all you got to do is buy out one of these non-conference games with one of these lower end FBS schools, these G5s, and then just bring it back. Both schools can't afford it. They got the money to do it. So, like Nike, just do it. What do you think? Do you think Oklahoma and Oklahoma State are going to be able to revive Bedlam? And if so, when do you think it can happen?
I think it's going to – personally, I don't think it's going to happen. I think that the pathway to make it happen would be with lesser and with all due respect, with other sporting events. You're going to have to and Baker, you're 100% right. I don't think that with Gundy, it's not like – it's, right now they are about as high as they could potentially get when it comes down to the football stuff because they are the forever Bedlam champion because they won that last game. And that is as good as it's going to get for them. It's as good as it's going to get for them. So in order for it to happen, you're going to have to see, softball. You're going to have to see baseball. You're going to have to see basketball. You're going to have to see the wrestling stuff. You're going to have to see those things. And you're going to have to see the turnout continue to entice Oklahoma State for that reason. I don't think Gundy has any desire to do it. I would say that if Oklahoma State said, we are in, I don't think that our administration would drag their feet for too long. But I just think it's an Oklahoma State thing at this point. And you got to kind of, why? What does Oklahoma State gain from it? The consistency of, let me say it this way, is I think that for so long, Oklahoma State was trying to become a program again, because not since Barry Sanders and Thurman Thomas and those guys did they have any national recognition at all, and they were trying to get there. And then that rivalry with the games like the 2001 the 2001 loss, or what is it, 2005 loss, or 2004, something like that. Rashawn Woods just went off, maybe 2003.
Yeah, 03.
Those games right there put OSU in they had a couple wins, back to back, a couple different times against Oklahoma. And so it all of a sudden said they belong. They're the same level as OU is. And now you're not only going against a rival who has absolutely just – I don't know of a rivalry that has a bigger separation between the two teams. And if I'm missing one, let me know. But, the whole 87 and teens, true rivalry. I don't think it doesn't do anything for Oklahoma. I think it's a lose-lose for Oklahoma. You beat them, you're supposed to. You lost, that's not a good look.
Yeah.
If you go to the 9 conference games, why add a distraction in there? Because instead of, and let's just say, you go to the SEC, Texas and OU knew going to SEC, You get your late season, cakewalk, or later in the season. Why would you replace that with something like this? Like, why would Texas ever go out and bring back a K-State, late in the season instead of Citadel or something like that? Like, I don't think so. I don't think that is ever going to happen. So you're going to have to go with those other lower revenue matchups, and it's going to have to make it clear and undeniable that football's worth the swing.
Yeah.
Now, if you made a deal to where it's not an every year thing, but let's say you do it every 5 years, I think that's a good starting point. I would like to see it. I personally would like to see us play Oklahoma State again, because I think that what we were in the Big 12 versus what we are now is a little different. You go completely different from just a strength in the trenches and just the caliber of athlete that we're recruiting nowadays. That is a big difference. OSU still, I mean, I think they got to focus on being relevant in the Big 12 again. Last
Yeah.
year was supposed to be their year. You brought back your super quadruple 12th year senior quarterback. You have the Doak Walker, favorite in Ollie Gordon. And that was supposed to be their big year. And they got just trounced up and down the field throughout the Big 12. And they didn't look like they belonged. Would Oklahoma State look at an OU in the middle of that, even with our offense last year, you local radio, I don't listen to it much, but, I still thought it was pretty funny. You have the worst defense in Oklahoma State history against one of the worst offensive in Oklahoma history. And you're like, well, could OU at least score against them? And, it became a little bit of a kind of tongue-in-cheek, conversation. But I just don't see it happening anytime soon. I think it's going to have to be some time to where people actually miss it. But I mean, like as an OU fan, I've kind of moved on from it. Like my family don't even take jabs at each other about OU versus LSU anymore. It's just like everybody's kind of moved on.
That's me. That's my point. That's my thing. The value of Oklahoma State is less about on the football field and it's more about talking smack outside of the game. That really is where it is, because it's one of those rivalries, the rare rivalries where the people live amongst each other and both teams have moments of being great. Like Oklahoma State's had its moments where they were pretty good and it was fun to see the game. You get that. You don't get it all the time, but you got it. To me, that's why you need to have it back, because it's more about fans enjoying, talking smack to each other than actually, the actual game fully. And it could become something. You become something big. You just got to do it. There's no excuse not to have it. Like that both are, they're, Oklahoma State's being ridiculous. OU's being ridiculous. Everybody's being ridiculous behind it. There's no excuse for it not to exist or go down. To me. But
name me another podcast right now or another TV show right now in the ACC, the Big Ten, or the SEC that's talking about Oklahoma State.
I mean, no one talks about Oklahoma State.
So that's where I'm going, and BBQ Bros, like, I feel you right there, is because I just don't. I think that Oklahoma needs to get their crap back in order. Hopefully we see that this year. You get your relevancy back in the SEC, and you get your, be back in the playoffs. I would say that in order for that conversation to happen, a couple things need to happen. OU needs to handle their business. They need to get themselves back into a good foothold at the top of the SEC and the top of the country. And as soon as those things get nailed down, but right now you've got, getting back to where we were. You've got NIL. You've got organizing the front office with revenue share. There's so many other irons in the fire right now. Oklahoma State's not even in the top 5, things that you need to address as a program from Oklahoma. And I think that if you can get all of those things nailed down and you get yourself, 3 or 4 years to where Oklahoma's back there at the top, you at that point, maybe you start those conversations. But I don't see it happening until that happens.
Yeah, I can see what you mean there.
Because, I mean, are you really – why do you need that game for recruiting? No. Do you need that game for national relevance? No. Do you need that game for bragging rights? I mean, you already got the all-time record, which is,
Right. Like, that's the thing. It's not really a big picture one. It's more of a fun one for the in-state people, to me. It's like Washington State. I mean, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, like, that doesn't do much for Ole Miss at all, but it's an in-state rivalry, and they're in conference with each other, so you do keep that. Kansas State, similar. BYU, Utah, they always kept the Holy War. They let it go for a bit. Now they're back consistently. Texas A&M was another great one, Yeah, that went away. A&M didn't want to do it again because, they didn't ever want to play Texas again. That's why they ran away, but you want to keep some of that. And like you said, like, that's why Oklahoma and Texas are both in the SEC together, because they want to maintain that at all times, because they know that with each other, they do it. They know that that's a massive game. But I do really want to have that game just for the tradition that it used to bring for years. But we'll see if Oklahoma State decides that they care about tradition and all of that stuff, and they'll make it happen. Thank y'all for pulling up. Hit that like button. New to the channel, subscribe, rate, review, give us 5. That was a fun discussion. I know that is one that Joel Klatt was saying he wants to see come back, and we might see it one day. We might not. But Coop, let's wrap it up. Put a bow on it. You got things to do to get with the family, but we're going to go a lot longer today. So stick around if you guys want to continue to join us. We appreciate y'all pulling up. ESPN, our guy Bill Conley. Love Bill Conley. Great guy. I've actually had some back and forth conversations with him. He's fun. One day I'm going to convince him to come on the show. But he dropped his winter top, his spring actual top 25 returning production nationally. And so, of course, we've got Oklahoma State. I mean, not Oklahoma State. I'm not talking about that. We got Oklahoma. We got, Auburn. We got everybody in the SEC like we typically always do. I'm going to get the graphic up and running for you all to be able to enjoy, because I love these conversations. This is fun for me because we get to talk about who's going to think it's going to be any good, who's not, etc. This bad boy does not want to fill up the way I want it to. So
it's always good right about now. Bunch of rankings. Not like anything can happen between here and kickoff in August. So these rankings always entertain me.
Yeah, they're just for fun. Like, at this point, you're looking at these because you have literally nothing else to do up until the game that you are played. I like to color code everything, so I'll put together my chart. As y'all can see, this is your returning production winter and then spring, plus the SP plus rankings. So the computers say Oklahoma is the 16th best team in the country right now, as constructed, which is up from 20 at winter. So we're actually trended up. The one reason why I wanted to point this out, and this is why this is a fun conversation when it comes to returning production, is Coop. Oklahoma is ranked number 10 in the country overall in returning production. Number 8 in offense. Number 30 in defense. Overall rank number 10, which is the second, actually is the third highest in the SEC behind Texas A&M and Vanderbilt. This is why this is a big deal. Majority of that returning production from last year, you know where that's coming from, Coop?
For Oklahoma?
Mm-hmm.
On offense or defense specifically?
On offense. We're ranked number 8 in the country in returning production. Where is majority of that coming from?
I would go with offensive line.
There you go. So the one thing that a lot of you have concerns about as an Oklahoma Sooners fan is you're concerned about Oklahoma because you want to know what the offensive line is going to look like. We're 8th in the country. We dropped a little bit on the production from returning on offense, but jumped a lot on defense because we added, one defensive player that actually added some good numbers. But offense, we moved down one spot because of Gavin Sawchuk leaving. He was, one of the better backs. But we return the offensive line. That's where all of our production is coming from. Gary and Hatchett transferred out. You know how many games he played last year, Coop?
3.
1.
Okay, 1.
He only made it that one game. Then he got hurt and didn't come back. Right. I thought so too. You'd have thought. No, he didn't really play. Injuries got him.
Per Brandon Drum. Tongue in cheek.
But no, seriously. Majority of our production that came back, offensive line.
Yeah.
Then we brought back majority of the wide receiver production. We lost all of our tight end production basically, but we brought back the wide receiver production.
No comment.
Burks, Kearney. Right. Exactly. But it's funny because all the production we lost, we brought in a lot more. And now the way that Conley does this is that you only get half credit for returning production for transfers.
Okay.
At the FCS level. So you're not getting a massive jump because you got in Jermichael, Carter, bringing in Giovanni Gibson and all of those. You're not getting that. Now you do get the Satania, Josiah Martin, but you're not getting all the high-end production numbers you think you get. You're getting half on the offense, which take a gander at it. It's pretty big. So offensive line is where Oklahoma's got it. But what jumped out to me the most, like Texas has a lot of things to refresh, but I think their saving grace is defense. 44, they're 31, ranked 31st in the country. Returning production on defense is 62% of their defensive production. The offensive production is where it's gone. Wide receivers are all gone. Quarterback's gone. Running back's gone. I mean, except for Wisner, who was third in the SEC in rushing, but you bring him back. He wasn't supposed to be the number one back, but he became number one back because everybody else got hurt. And then they just had, I think is it Wingo that they sat out the rest of spring practices because he got a little bit of an injury and they wanted to make sure to preserve him. Everybody was dealing with it. It happens. Yeah. I mean, that's honestly keeping it a buck. That was why we didn't have our spring game, was that we had so many injuries last fall that they're like, we're going to take a chance this year. We want to wait. We'll give it a year. I think the spring game will be back next year. Don't get it twisted. I think it's back next year. But Oklahoma is one of the few trending. You had 3 teams trending down, Tennessee and Florida, as well as Missouri in losing. Now, Missouri brought back a lot of defensive production. They lost some coaches, but their offense.
Yeah.
Oklahoma has a really good chance of shocking college football next year. Here's your sunshine pumping moment, folks. Bringing back this much production and a defense that only lost 2 big name players, and some solid production, losing like Ethan Downs, Caden Wooler, Trace Ford, who are all really good contributors. And then, And then Danny, and then losing Danny, who was your leading tackler, and then losing Billy Bowman, who was one of your top playmakers and tacklers. That hurts. But you still got the vast majority of everybody else in there. And then you'll get an injured Gentry Williams back who looks like he's going to play. Eli will be back. Kendall Dobie will be back, who we both believe was probably the one piece that the minute we lost him, the defense started to see a slight decline. Coop, am I wrong for believing in this team? Am I wrong for sunshine pumping?
I mean, first and foremost, when you look at this chart, what does the SEC have against the color green?
They really don't have a single team in the color green, dog. Like, I don't get that. That is pretty wild. They don't like you Irishmen for some reason.
Yeah. So I'll start with the offensive line for Oklahoma. You figured stuff out. The offensive line production, obviously, the last couple games, the season looked a lot better. Your offensive line it was not fool's gold against Alabama. That was what you were capable of. And I don't think the offensive line really had much to do with the LSU game. and the fact that we lost that one. But my confidence in this is the offensive line. You didn't have week to week any stability until the end of the year, and early in the year, we still even persevered through that. Um, Guys, Fasusi and Foje are it. They are the real damn deal.
Legit.
And they're not even factored into this, and that's why I am 100% buying into this offensive line. Is this going to be a finalist for Joe Moore? I don't think so. Are they going to be a very stout offensive line? Very much. I think that as the season goes along, the key thing for Oklahoma is handle your business in this non-conference games and handle your business to the teams that you're supposed to go out and do some damage with, and get these guys actual real playing time to where they're getting in there and doing what they're supposed to be doing. I think the receiver production that you bring in on top of Mateer and Arbuckle, it's set up. I brought it up also. You have 7 new starting quarterbacks that you're going to be facing with new guys, new systems, and I say it's different at Oklahoma because Arbuckle comes with John Mateer.
He brings
and
his quarterback with him.
Situation with an Alabama, a Georgia, Texas is still the same. Ole Miss, you're going to be starting a new guy who is the next one up. Tennessee, you lose Nico, you bring in I can't remember where he came out of, but this is if you're looking at a lot of the pundits right now and a lot of the lines makers right now, it's all trending up for Oklahoma, and you're going to lean in on the fact that Arbuckle and Mateer have the capability of keeping things going as they were, and
yeah.
Everybody who's saying, but can Mateer do it in the SEC? Like, is he going to put up the exact same numbers that he had at Washington State last year? I don't know. But if you're saying that he's going to come to Oklahoma and all of a sudden just be a poor quarterback, you're fooling yourself, and you're just grasping at straws because you watched Cam Ward go to Miami and win the damn Heisman and, be in the Heisman conversation, that is, and then go number 1 overall. It was Miami. And he put up number on number on number, and a lot of their losses didn't really have a lot to do with Cam. A lot of their losses had to do with the defense. And so I fully believe that John Mateer and Arbuckle and this offensive line, with Ott coming in, you have everything set up in front of you. And if the offensive line just does an average job, this team gains 2 to 3 wins. Now you also have the defense. And Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, I said at the beginning of the season last year, I said the guys behind the starters are better talented. They are more athletic. They are more explosive. These are guys who weren't reclamation projects that were corrected by Brent Venables, but recruited by Lincoln Riley and Speed D. Now these are Brent Venables guys. These are the transfers that you've brought in. Your strength is going to be your defensive line. And I can tell you this, if your strength is your defensive line, Jay, you are automatically much better at defense than if it's not one of your strengths. A lot of people are worried about the outside. The defensive back room is the one where a lot of people say, like, that needs to stay healthy. And I think that is going to be the key. That could be the difference between winning 8 games and 10 games for this team, is how healthy the defensive backs can stay. But I really don't think that there is a weakness on the defense. I really don't think that there are any weaknesses on the offense. I think that there are several questions.
Yeah.
When I say this is going into, at this time last year, Jay, you and I both, we reached out to our partners at BetUS and we put our money down on not only OU, with the over and winning the conference championship. We did all that. Well, we saw what happened. So I'm saying outside of injuries and stuff like that, what we saw last year, this team is going to be vastly much more improved. And
it is.
You won't have a team in here outside of maybe LSU that you go, I know exactly what they're going to be. And when it comes to LSU, Jay, when they've got all these expectations, they're either going to be unstoppable and there's nothing we can do about it, or they're going to massively flop. That is the MO of LSU for many years. When they've got mass expectations, they are either one of the best teams in college football history or massively disappointing. So I don't look at anybody in this slate and go, that's a team that doesn't have any business being around.
Not a single one of them. Even the mighty Georgia. I think the mighty Georgia is going to be a fun team to see next year because they've got a lot of changes too. Got questions about their quarterback. Now their linebacker room's going to be deep. They're going to be deep. They're going to be really deep there. Defense should be as solid as Georgia typically is, but the offense, we've got questions. Like, we don't know about the running back room. We don't know about the we don't know about wide receivers right now. Offensive line should be solid as usual, but again, you're walking in with one of the top producing quarterbacks last year in all of college football. Let me say this again. Let me say this for people in the back. If it was that easy to do and produce the numbers that John Mateer did in the rest of G5, somebody else would have. Keep that in mind. The numbers that he put up last year were some of the best in all of college football.
He's one of two guys coming into this year who accounted for 40-plus touchdowns. One of two.
One of two.
So that means it's John Mateer and one other dude entering this season. And we said it. If your offense just wasn't pathetic, I mean, it's a potential 2-game swing. Now, it still is what it is, and we still lost the games that we lost. Missouri still happened. The Ole Miss collapse still happened. The South Carolina ass whooping still happened. You have to learn from that. But we see it with the girls right now, and we ought to end talking about the girls. But they're on a revenge tour.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with OU on the football team this year. And I promise you, you've heard Gabe talk about it. You hear guys on NFL Today talk about it, on ESPN, on NFL Channel talk about it. When you have a quarterback that you believe in and you know what they are, your team morale is elevated massively. And it is not – and listen, I think Arch Manning is going to be a good quarterback. Dude has never thrown for 3,000 yards in a season, high school, college, anything. He's never eclipsed that. Maybe in middle school, but I ain't counting no middle school.
What?
So
yeah, fair point.
Even Arch Manning, that's all hope. They're hoping that he will be what everybody else says he's going to be. This team, every single one of these players, and Tuesday, Jay, I don't even think you know this. We got Jacob Henry. I'm going to be doing an interview with Jacob Henry on Tuesday afternoon. So if you're around, let me know. But Jacob Henry, massive respect out to this dude. But he said, I do not want to do an interview until I've at least done something and shown out and done some practice. He doesn't want to, be interviewed by anybody. So he reached back out to me out of the blue and said, let's go. And so I'm going to be talking with him on Tuesday. But this team knows what John Mateer is, and there's a confidence already around John Mateer that was not there last year. And I feel like was there with Dylan Gabriel, and I feel like it was there with the last quarterbacks, the Jalen Hurts, the Baker, the Kylers. And I think that is going to have a lot to do with this team's morale going into the season. It's not – what do we got here? It's we know what we have, and we're about to show you what we have. And so that's where I feel that John Mateer is a guy who the numbers are there. The Cam Ward situation helps us out tremendously. And the team's confidence in him, it is very, very pronounced. And so that's where a lot of my confidence comes from.
That's where mine come as well. We've got someone that's done some production and who has helped build somebody like a Cam Ward up. And I mean, who was it? Arbuckle as well as Kuzieski was there at, the draft.
Yes.
With Cam Ward hanging out, showing their support, because that was their dude.
And I promise you this, Sooner Cowboys, that is the most positive thing I've seen you say in quite a long time.
Are you okay?
But,
you okay, Sooner Cowboy?
I don't know, is maybe he's scared of the storms, but OU does need to play complementary football. We have moved from competitive
Sooner
depth,
Cowboy, you all right?
but we've moved from that to now you have an offense and you have a defense. And you're right, 100%. That defense threw the Weekend of Bernie's offense on its back and just carried its dead ass
I love the
throughout the
Weekend of
whole
Bernie's.
season, except for the out-of-body experience against Alabama. It absolutely did that. And I just 100% feel you also have some of the toughest games coming here. Now, I do have Alabama. How does Kalen DeBoer do with a quarterback who he can coach and proceed with like he did at Washington? Jalen Milroe was not that dude. And we saw it in the draft, and I still think he was drafted a lot higher than he probably should have gone. But you saw it. You're going to see an Alabama team who I think is going to be better than last year, but may have a same record or worse, because I still think that Nick Saban effect and you not wanting to be the first team under Nick Saban that didn't live up to those expectations, now that benchmark is no longer there. Now you've got DeBoer, and we heard a lot of craziness about that, and I know that we've talked about this ad nauseum, but they're the one team that I'm really, really interested to see how this season turns out. And I'm not going to get all excited about Alabama in week 1 or week 2. I want to see what happens 3 or 4 games deep in the conference schedule. And that's the exact same situation that people are going to do with Oklahoma. It does not matter if we come out, we beat the hell out of Illinois State, and we take it to Michigan, and we go through non-conference in Auburn, and it's going to say, what do you do against Texas? What do you do against Ole Miss? What do you do against Alabama, LSU? Those are going to be the big deals. Is nobody's going to, if this team rolls out a 5-0, there's still going to be a lot of people going, yeah, but. So you're going to need to do it. And so if you are an OU fan and you're going, hey, listen, I know that two games in after we beat Michigan, everybody's going to put us at the top. No, it's not going to go that way, because I think the Michigan game is going to get really, really propped up. But then I think I am very, very confident against this Michigan team. Very, very confident, because their offense with a what was Edwards on the front of the video game?
Yes.
That their offense was just as bad as ours last year.
Yeah, their offense was awful. And I'm trying to figure out if they know how to do a forward pass. That's literally where I'm curious about, is if the forward pass actually works there.
They had, I'm pretty sure, I'd have to go back and look at the stats, and so you guys call me a liar, but I think that
he was drinking today.
Most of their running, no.
Fair point.
Michigan still had a good running game. We didn't even have a good running game.
We didn't have anything. Coop, we didn't have anything.
So it is going to be a game to where I think that Michigan game probably starts really, really slow. And it's going to be people taking. It's going to be both OU and Michigan taking body blows. But I don't think that they can. I don't think they can stick out with us. Underwood, I do know that I think it was their spring practice in their scrimmage. Dude went like 11 for 36 or something like that, and it didn't look too terrific. So Michigan does have a solid defense, but they lost. They lost Mason Graham. They lost the Will Johnson, back in the back end. They lost a linebacker. They lost another defensive lineman. They're always going to have a solid line. But I don't think that they have the athlete.
And defense.
I don't think they're going to have. Yeah, I don't think that they're going to have the. It's going to be a little bit of a reset for them. And let's just be honest. We're thinking of Michigan's national championship team, and if you take a 10-year, serving size there, that's 1 year that they really, really just kicked the trend and overachieved. And so I'm going to look at the mean of it, and I'm still saying I don't think that Michigan's going to stand up. So, but where I go with it is you're going to need to see OU in conference do things that they didn't do last year, dictate, play complementary football. And I think that once you get 3 or 4 of those games in, then people are going to go, okay, hold on a second, something's going on back down to OU again.
Yep, this won't be the first time you'll hear me this. I'll have a video about this exact same thing probably in August as we prepare for the season. But yes, I 100% agree that the Michigan game is the test for us this season. It's the litmus test for the entire year. It's going to tell us about John Mateer. It's going to tell us if he's going to even be a viable candidate for the Heisman or even any type of conversations for top quarterbacks in the country. That's the test. That is that game. That defense, regardless of the player they've lost, they've still got some solid people there, really good coaching there. It's going to tell us everything. I think our defense will be just fine because our defense our defense won 6 games last year. And I think that
yes,
we know they're going to do it again.
And everybody's coming out. I didn't want to say it, but now that you guys are typing it, I mean, they cheated. I mean, it's plain and simple. There was a lot of cheating, and that ain't there anymore. So I think that you look at how good our defense was last year and how at the end of the season, it really, I mean, I think that they, for lack of better terminology, I think that they just emptied the can against Alabama. I think that they hung in there. Whatever happened at LSU happened, but I mean, the defense definitely struggled at the end of the season because they did have old Bernie on his back carrying through the whole season, and that's not something they're going to have to do. Now, is there going to be a game to where Tier and the offense don't have the success as they do in the other games, and the defense is going to have to step up? Sure. Is there going to be a game to where the defense doesn't do it and the offense is going to have to step up? Sure. Yeah. But I think that this year we actually have the facilities to do it on both sides of the ball.
We do. We have it. We have that, and I think that that's going to be – I think we'll have the capability. So when you look at the production here and looking through all of it, I think it's going to be another good one, Coop. I think we'll be fine going into it. I think Missouri's going to be more interesting to me than anybody. I want to see if their defense is still going to be any good. South Carolina – losing a lot of defenders, bringing in some players, but losing a lot of defenders. I mean, Dylan Stewart's going to be a problem, but how about the rest of that secondary? Who they had some good players drafted this past year. It's going to be fun. Tennessee, man. Look, I like Joey Aguilar. Y'all heard me profess that. I like him. I think he may actually be a better fit for Heupel's system, but it won't be this year. It'll be next year because a running game is where the question is. That's a running team. And it ain't going to look all that good. And Ole Miss, I don't care what y'all say, dog. They had one of they were loaded up so much from the portal. Biggest portal winners, top players. And they still couldn't get it done. Keep that in mind, folks. Some teams will go out there and do all kinds of crazy-ish and still fumble the bag. All right. Final thoughts, Coop. I'm going to give y'all a quick story on kind of what happened on last Sunday, but do you have any final thoughts before I wrap this up into kind of a somber situation?
I'm going to say 9 years straight, the OU girls have they have done something this year that I think a lot of people saw the open opportunity. And I think that it's very, very I think I'm very, very correct in saying that if you don't get them this year, it's going to be another 4 years before you get another shot because this team is loaded with freshmen and sophomores. When you start from the very, very beginning with Cassie Pickering as a sophomore, this girl has absolutely been unconscious. You go number 2 with Ella Parker, again, a sophomore. Number 3, batting third is Sydney Barker, a freshman. Batting fourth, you got Gabby Garcia, a freshman. Nelly McEnroe-Marinas, another, I believe, freshman. You have Elena Abayani is a junior, so she will be a senior next year. And it is one after another, more freshmen and sophomores. And if OU has one of these freshman girls come in, or they can get a transfer portal pitcher come in like a Kelly Maxwell or like Sam Landry this year, going into this next year. This is the year that people got to get them. And there are some great teams, and this College World Series is going to be absolutely phenomenal to watch. But damn, Gabby Garcia, this girl almost brings tears to my eyes because she is an absolute stud. Sydney Barker's a stud. Ella Parker's a stud. Cassidy Pickering is a gamer. We've been to me and Finley went to several of our games, in the past couple weeks, and she got to see a grand slam. She's got to see multiple home runs. This team is absolutely just phenomenal, and it's that they're on a revenge tour, and this team is continued coached by, Patty Gasso's still there. So I will say this is, if you do not get them this year, it's going to be a minute before you can, because I think this team's going to be another. That's why we won 4 in a row. Is the Tiara Jennings, is the Alyssa Brito, and all these kids who came in and just one of the best recruiting classes ever, and now it's back on again. And so, Jay, it's just going to be tough. And so, yeah, there you have it. Now, I will say this: playing Tennessee is going to be tough. It is
tough.
Going to be absolutely tough, because that girl throws damn flames. Texas, Florida, I'm really, really excited about that. Najee Kennedy for Texas Tech. It's money well spent by Patrick Mahomes and whoever else that might have donated. But this is a field that is very, very exciting, and these are the teams that we expected to be there, maybe outside of Ole Miss. So it starts Thursday. It's time to tee off, as long as this crap outside stays away.
That's massive. There we go.
That's my end. This team is phenomenal. It just blows my mind. But yeah, tell me about last Sunday, because I'm a little interested in this.
Yeah, little sadness here. So I'm gonna post this up here. So brace yourself. This right here is my little guy Cash. This was my niece's dog. As you can see, he's wrapped up. We lost him on last Friday. So it was a tough weekend for your boy.
Yeah.
We were dog sitting, and I think he got attacked by a hawk in my backyard. And when he was found, he was basically crawling over us in a pool of blood. As you can see,
I'm so sorry, man.
The little bandages and everything get terrible.
His face and his legs too, yeah.
Yeah, he's bleeding everywhere. It's bad. And so we took him in, got him looked at. He had 3 broken ribs and a ruptured lung. So I have been off my game for the last week because of this little guy. Sucked. Seeing driving him to the emergency room and his little heart just going and just, yeah. So want to tell y'all, while everything sucked while I was trying to get the show going on Sunday, it heavy hearted. So, but because of y'all, I appreciate it. Took a lot off my mind. Allow me to work through all of this. It's because of you fans tuning in and showing us all this love and support. So thank y'all for pulling up. Hit the like button if you're new to the channel. Subscribe, rate, review, give us 5. We are out. I'm going to go cry some more and watch some basketball. We'll be back next week. Next Sunday. Well, yeah, actually, no, we'll be here on Sunday. Me and Coop will put something together for y'all on Sunday. I'm traveling on doing some vacation with the family, so I'll be gone for a week. So after the big recruiting weekend, I'll definitely be back. We'll have something that Sunday as well. But this coming Sunday, me and Coop will put something together special for you all. And yeah, we'll chop it up with each and every one of y'all. A few days. Peace.